Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. Y'all, we got a beginner on deck. Yes, we do. As you know, we partner with Fund Her Try, and so we gave race reimbursements back to some women who did all women's races that was a part of the women's series with USA Triathlon. Whew. Now, this one to me, I feel like is a little special because I was actually at the race. I participated because I had never done an all women's race myself. Well, the Philly Women's Triathlon that was put on by Delmo Sports is the race that we did. And I get to bring to you, to this audience, Miss Bie Aweh. Bie, welcome to Try Beginner's Luck. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, as you know, you are a recipient of the Fund Her Try uh, X TBL race reimbursement. But this is really made possible because of Fund Her Try. So Fund Her Try is a 501c3 organization that is chartered to getting more women to every start line. Every start line. They want to help tackle the financial barrier by reimbursing race reimbursements. Okay. For first time triathletes that are female or identify as female. So that happened to be you. And we did it in a really cool way. Uh, there were over, I think, 200 first timers. Over 200 first timers. No, that's not true. There were over 500 first timers. Let me get my numbers correctly. It's been a minute. How does it feel to be one of over 500 first timers to finish your first triathlon in July?
It's incredible. I mean, I was first of all, I was confused, right? Like at the check-in table, someone was like, "Are you Bie Aweh? Can I take a picture with you?" I'm like, "What is happening? Like, am I in trouble? Like, I've paid the IRS. Is everything okay?" I was just really, really confused, but also balancing confusion, but also trying to be in the zone because this was my first time doing a triathlon and I was feeling a lot of nervousness. And so it was just a mixture of all feelings. But like 2 weeks later, when they reached out and let me know that, hey, out of X amount of first timers, we want to award you with this reimbursement. I was like, wow, I was shocked. So it's an incredible feeling. And I think for me, it's just really empowered me to continue to elevate my experience, talk about my experience, to get other people excited about wanting to embark on this journey as well.
I love that. Spoken like a true first timer, or that you've already are just so good with interviews. I'm like, man, what else am I supposed to ask? Well, I can kind of tell you why the confusion was there. So let me tell you, because one of the things in triathlon we are good at is transitioning. We were supposed to do this on Saturday, but as you know, Saturday there was a big storm that came through and we were not able to do this. And so Steve, being the creative, amazing race director that he is, was like, hey, why don't we do it on Sunday and kind of announce it from the stage? And so we weren't sure if you were going to actually show up because you had not picked up your race packet on Saturday. So the goal was, if she doesn't come, because you had to be present to win or actually participate in the race to get the race reimbursement, then we would go to the next person that was selected. And so there was a committee who selected random numbers, and you were the first number. And then we had two backups in case that didn't go through. So that's why the picture was taken. And we were doing all that. We were trying to be, well, Rachel was trying to be stealthy with taking the picture so that we could make sure we could see you around the finish. And then when you finished, we were like, oh, this is perfect timing because she finished right before we announced it. And then it was like, this is for the winner is Bie Aweh. Crickets, crickets. And I'm like, we're here live and she's not anywhere to be found. So you were telling me a little bit earlier that you were just completely out of it. So tell us Like, what was that experience? Tell us what your experience was about doing your first triathlon because you said you were out of it at the end.
Yeah, definitely was out of it. So it's more than likely that when you all were calling my name, I was laying on grass trying to just remember who I am and where I am. Um, because we ended on that 5K, which running is not my cup of tea, but you know, in life there are things that the things that you dislike, sometimes are the things you might want to lean into a little bit more. So that's my relationship with running. But in terms of how I got to this point, a really good friend of mine and former colleague, Tasia, she had done a triathlon in New York City, and I was on a what I call a radical sabbatical from work. So I was all about like delving into new things because I didn't have to work. Work wasn't taking up all my time. So I'm like, I want to maximize these next 3 months. And so when Tasia wrapped up her New York City triathlon, I'm like, I saw it on Instagram. I'm like, I want to do a triathlon with you. And she's like, great, there's one in Philly. Sign up. It's next month. I'm like, okay. So that meant I only had a month to train, work really actively work on all three things: running, biking, and swimming. Luckily for me, I had swam a lot as a kid. I was on a swim team at the Boys and Girls Club. So swimming is familiar to me. I'm not like an Olympic swimmer, but I can do it. Um, Running, I hate, but I could do it. And then biking, I didn't have a bike. So it's actually not something that I actively worked on. I just said, you know what? I'll figure it out when I get there. And that's what I did. I figured it out when I got there.
I love the fact that you just woke up and said, "Yeah, I can do this. I'm going to swim. I can do it. I don't have to prepare much." But I love that mentality because it's like sometimes when we go in and we just do everything right, we take the fun out of it. And so you left room for curiosity. You left room to see, okay, do I like this? Am I going to, can I improve? Where can I improve? Let me make sure that I really even want to do this before I invest a lot of time in it. But you were okay with accepting the challenge.
Yes,
And that,
absolutely. And I was most excited to wear the one piece.
what?
I said I was most excited about wearing the one piece. What do we call it? Leotards? I don't even know what the formal name is in the triathlon world, but I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna get a cute one. It's gonna look great. Like that was like the highlight of like getting prepared for this experience.
Thought that's what you were saying. But I was like, let me make sure. I've never had anyone say that they were most excited about wearing a kit. We just call it a kit. It's a tri kit. So tell us
Yeah,
about your
yeah.
tri kit. Okay, let me, you get me thrown off. I was not expecting you to throw in the kit. Like, but you know what? I feel that because you look good, you feel good, you race good, right? And
Exactly.
just being a woman of color, like it matters how we look. We got to show up.
Yes. Yes.
We can't just be out here looking crazy. So tell us about your kit since you were most proud to wear your onesie.
I mean, what I quickly learned is that they're very expensive, right? Like you obviously for better quality ones, you have to put a little bit more money towards that. And I told myself, since it's the first one, I'm gonna keep it minimal. And I kept it basic. I went on like Amazon, got like a $40 one. I thought it was really nice. And talk about being women of color, but specifically Black women. I also, I don't want to say anxiety, but just like going back and forth on what to do with my hair, right? Because we're going into the water. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my hair braided. I'm going to dedicate X amount of dollars towards getting my hair braided, and then, X amount of dollars towards the kit. And I rented a bike on site. So, it worked really well within my budget. But to your point, like when you look good, you perform good. So I was just really excited to be able to put that on. I remember waking up at like 4:30 in the morning, Tasia and I putting these kits on. And I'm like, yeah, this is a thing. This is really happening now.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the hair because listen, that's still a struggle and I've been doing this for quite a while and hair is always a thing. I tell my coach and he's a black guy so he gets it so he doesn't give me much grief, but I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't want to swim more than twice a week." And twice is pushing it because that means I got to do my hair every time, wash it, condition it. If it's not in braids, straighten it or figure out a way to wear it curly. It's too much. But we do it because we love the sport. And so it's just another element that we have to consider when participating in the sport on a continuous basis. Because for me, it's a lifestyle. So it's continuous. Now, whether I do it and how I do it in which season, but this is something that I've said this is a part of my lifestyle. So you figured out what you wanted to do with your hair, put it in braids. You got your kit, you look good. 4:30 in the morning, you're waking up, which you might be a morning person. I don't know. But then you have to drive
I,
to the race site. You are a morning person?
yeah, definitely a morning person.
All right. So you up, you're like me, you're cranking in the morning, you're getting in your car. What was some tunes that you listened to, you and Tasia, as you were heading to the race site?
That is easy. We listened to the Renaissance album, because we are very much in the Renaissance. At that point, we were waiting for Beyonce to come back across the pond and start performing in the U.S. So we were listening to Beyonce at 4:30 in the morning. And the beautiful thing about that album is that it has something for everyone, but also this level of like self love for me embedded in that album. And I think the act of choosing to do a triathlon with 1 month of training, I'm going to use training in air quotes, that's an act of self-love for me, like wanting to invest in myself and challenge myself. That's self-love. So going back to what we listened to, it was Renaissance.
Hey. Now, what's your favorite song off the Renaissance album?
Cozy. I'll be honest, like for me, when I think about my journey with fitness, and this connects to cozy is about being comfortable with who you are, loving yourself. For a long time, and it's well until I'm 34 years old, so I would say like 32 years old, learning to love myself has been an ongoing journey, and where I've really learned to kind of not kind of to truly love and appreciate my body and everything my body can do is through fitness, through CrossFit. I'm an avid CrossFitter, and I think that helped a little bit. But in terms of like why I love cozy so much, it just is a reminder to look in the mirror and love what you see, because for a long time I wasn't able to do that, but today I can. So cozy is my favorite song. Thank you, Beyonce.
Hey, thank you, Beyonce. I think my friends and I were talking about how women helped to revolutionize the summer, whether it
Mm,
was Beyonce, whether it was Barbie movie or Taylor Swift, how they
yeah.
brought communities together to really truly interact and to come together, where that's something that we hadn't really been able to do in the last 3 years, but yet the girls who run the world were able to make that happen. And so I love that. And I love the fact that your act of self-love was showing your body some love by, working out. And it is an act of self-love, like, to get up. Well, as you continue to get up in the morning and train for future races and just getting in that 1 month of air quotes training, you did something for you that you didn't know if you could do it, but you took the risk. And I admire that you shared your journey of self love and the ups and downs, because that's a real thing for people. And not a lot of people want to be honest about that. Like, I often say to my, when I'm talking, I have these conversations because, I pretend like I'm on this talk show and, I'm always talking in the mirror and be like, and so I had this moment, but I would say I'm a very confident woman, but I do have some insecure tendencies. And I think that's okay,
Yep.
right? And so we still are able to push through that insecurity. We don't act on this insecurities, but we are still confident. And so that self-love evolution and the ups and downs is a real thing. So thank you for highlighting that, B. I appreciate
Yep.
that.
My pleasure.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So we're listening to Renaissance. Cozy is that album. I mean, the song you probably had on repeat, getting your mind right before you got on site. So you're on site. What was the first thought as you were going in to rack your bike and to put your things in transition? What was going through your mind at that time?
First thing I remember saying to Tage was like, "Damn, this is a lot of women. I don't know that I've ever been." The funny part is, like, growing up, I always wanted to go to all women's schools. So, like, for me, it just took me back to that moment. Um, but I remember lining up at the pool because that's where the race began, and it just felt really good, like to be able to know that we are here and the only competition is yourself, right? And so not being, even though everyone wants to win, everyone wants to have a good time or a good, perform at a within a good time frame. Um, Folks were just genuinely like happy for one another, cheering folks on, and so that felt really good to be in a space where it wasn't about competition. It was really just like it, I don't want to use the word empowering, but like celebrating different women, right? Like literally, there was so much difference. And, maybe another day we talk about the representation of women of color, because I think there's more room to grow in that area. But in general, just being in a space with women where we're encouraging one another, we're celebrating one another, it felt really, really good. And I just have a very vivid visual in my mind of being at that pool. And that's where it really sunk in, like, wow, this is bigger than me, and I want other people to experience this. And I'm the type of person that wants to put everything on Instagram, so it's kind of sad that I didn't have my phone to like put that on Instagram, but I thought it was a very powerful image.
Yep. I would have to agree with you because there was a lot of women there, and I had never been in that environment myself. And so it was actually kind of overwhelming in the sense of, good morning. It was like, oh, this is different. This isn't like the tense triathlons that the male energy can bring to a race. It was really different. And again, I like racing with guys because it's a little it's the competitive factor of like chasing, and it makes you faster, and just even women make you faster. But I enjoy racing at, you know, races with men. But it was something very empowering and um awesome about the women. I don't want to talk about later bringing more women or the lack of representation. I want to talk about that now, because if this was your first race and you immediately identified it, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Because I'm at a point where, why are we not talking about it? I mean, we talk about it enough, we have, but as a first timer, that's your first observation. Speak.
Yeah. um yeah, it was pretty clear that a big area of opportunity was increasing representation of communities of color or women of color. And so for me, it was just so exciting. Like, even though there was like great energy amongst women in general, when I saw another Black woman, I was like, oh my God, like we instantly, like, same thing you would do at a predominantly white institution, right? But there was a level of just like joy. And I remember finishing, there was like a group of Black women congregating because they also had competed in that New York triathlon with Tasia, and they were all like waiting for me, cheering for me, and it just felt really, really good. But beyond that, my desire to, I think there's something to be said about visibility. I had a Tasia who introduced me to this, and folks probably, moving forward into 2024, people now seeing me do this, are wanting to commit to this experience. And I've had a couple friends that say, hey, I actually want to do this with you next summer. But I just, my deep desire is to have and empower our communities to take control of our health. And this is not to make the assumption that everyone who is Black has health conditions, but I happen to be a Black person with high blood pressure, right? So being able to take ownership of my health is really important. So I will be in spaces like that. And so how do I help others feel like these spaces are accessible to them? Because sometimes there's a fear of that, am I welcomed here? And it's not anyone explicitly saying like, oh, you're not welcome, but it's the slights and the staring, right? Those are the, non kind of verbal cues that are indicating that you're not welcome. So like, what is the environment that we are creating that, lets people know that this is a space for you? And if there's additional marketing that needs to be done, I'm happy to be part of that campaign.
I absolutely appreciate your sentiments. Sometimes there can be a broken record effect where you're saying the same thing and people don't hear you because it's the same thing. You're repeating the same thing on a repeat. But the fact that you've said what so many of us have said to the governing body and into race directors, you are hitting it. And it's about, how do you make us feel? The look, the songs you play at the races, the people who you have working with you at the races. It all matters into the experience. And if you don't have anybody on your team who can speak to the experience, you're kind of missing the point.
Yep,
Y-
absolutely.
that's racial equity as a whole is about how are we looking at this from a lens? Well, that not to get too deep into this, but I'm glad that you made those comments because I remember in 2020 when USA Triathlon was having these roundtables discussions because of in light of George Floyd. And so these conversations were popping up, and people were so gun ho on what can we do, be inclusive. And we made some suggestions and some comments, and sometimes, and some actions were taken. They were taken. Boards were created, racial equity boards and DEIA opportunities were created. But in some instances, it's fallen off a bit. There hasn't been a continuum. And so I'm very appreciative that you have stated that. And I hope that your voice will continue to get louder as a newer triathlete because
Yeah.
your voice matters. It absolutely matters. And for you to come into your first race, and now Delmo puts on an amazing sport, an amazing race. It was one of the best races that I've attended, and was just blown away by everything. But you're right to that point. The
Right.
representation wasn't fully there as it could be. And there are organizations out there like Vaughn with Fast Chicks. There are organizations out there where we are making a splash and we are making noise and people are seen. But if there's only one or two of us in each city doing it, then that's really not enough. So, how can we have campaigns to encourage this in a way? And, we can only do what we can do, and we all have a purpose on earth. So, maybe it's for you to come in, use your voice, and get more people in the New Jersey area riled up, and then it goes from there. We don't know where it can go,
Yeah.
but
We're gonna run a minivan and ride out to Philadelphia next summer.
you said you're going
Yeah.
to
My
rent a
goal is
who?
definitely to rent a minivan and ride out to Philadelphia next summer and bring more friends with me, right? Because I think from a grassroots level, we can try to impact and infiltrate at a from a systems level, we can try to influence the institution overall. And I think
Right.
from a grassroots level, we have the responsibility to bring 2, 3, 4, 5 people along with us as well. So I think we have to approach it from both angles. It can't be overextending on one and neglecting the other. How do we, exhaust all options?
I agree. I agree. Exhaust all options. So I'm looking forward to seeing your minivan crew out there next year and riding, but you don't even have to wait till next year. Like there's this year and there's the top of next year. There's programs that you can get started in because there's no time like the present. So
Right.
we got to go back to the race because we stopped at seeing all the women, right? The pool.
Mm-hmm.
It's your first race. What was your pool swim like?
The first I want to say like 200 meters. I can't remember how many meters we swam, but the first half felt really good. And then towards the latter end, naturally, I was dying, very much fatigued. And I remember a lifeguard looking at me like, "You okay? You need help, sister?" That's another thing. I think it was awesome to see black lifeguards, and we don't have to belabor that point. But I think again, to the nature of why visibility is so important. It shows that we exist in multiple arenas and dimensions and not just like basketball players. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, the swim was hard. But I would actually, relative to all the things we had to do, it was probably the easiest thing for me.
Okay. All right. So swim was hard. And granted, you had air quotes 1 month of training. So
Yeah.
of course you're not conditioned to do the race, but you were able to survive. You go through your first transition, you come back and you're like, oh, where is my bike? You're in transition. Tell us about finding your bike and getting on and riding the course along the Schuylkill River Trail.
Yeah. No one, I mean, I guess I should have known that you're going to be wet along the way, but there's something about finishing the rest of the West, like the rest of the race being like soaked, like socks and all. And no one told me about chafing on the heels, but I learned the hard way. Neither here nor there. finding my bike, I actually Tasia and I did a walkthrough that morning of like how to navigate this space. So it made sense, you know, when it was like game time. And honestly, I could just follow the crowd of women in front of me going to get their bikes. And so, you know, just remembering the number placement, having the socks laid out and sneakers ready to go. This is all strategy that she had acquired from her first race. So I just kind of mocked her along the way and just copied everything she did was ready to go.
This is classic first time, right? You don't know about chafing, you don't know about the chamois butter, and that's a real that could be a make that could be like a break. You'd be like, "I feel like this after a race, you burn it."
Yeah.
Sorry, but not sorry, right? Because chafing is a part of it's a part of the it's par for the course, right? You're gonna chafe at some point, and so you just chafed before, and now you will have some better techniques and some creams that you can use. But that's not to say that you won't chafe in the future, depending on as you grow in the sport and the length of races you do, it can happen again and happen in
Mhm.
different paces, in places you didn't even think you could chafe.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw on
You know?
Instagram someone chafed in their chest area. And I'm like, I was today years old when I learned that women can chafe there. So
Mhm. That's a real thing, especially from your bras, depending on what type of bra you're using and the fabric, all of that is such a big thing. So the other part that really made me just chuckle was you didn't know that you were going to be soaked. So what did you think?
I thought by like the first mile in the bike ride, I'd be dry. Like, I don't know, something about the wind drying me up. But nope, I was wet through and through. I was just waiting for my like, okay, I am dry moment. Um, and that bike ride was probably like 9 miles. So I'm like, okay, mile two, maybe I'll be dry, and mile three, and here I am finishing and still not dry, and then having to go to the run, um, where my feet felt like cement. I felt like I was running with cement blocks. It was just so difficult. So yeah, nothing in the world prepares you for it other than doing it.
Yeah. And your feet feeling like cement is what we call a brick. So after
Yeah.
you get off the bike, you do feel like your body and your feet feel like bricks. And so that is a normal feeling. And it gets better as um, you practice. So I'm glad that you got this first time experience because this is really what it's all about. You don't have to know everything and you don't have to be good at everything, but you got to have a heart and a willingness to try.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think going out there and doing just that, you come back the next time and be like, okay, well, I did a month this time. This time I'm going to find a training plan and let's see what we can do for 12 weeks or
Mhm.
16 weeks to prepare. And then we can do multiple races because our bodies are already trained. So we can eliminate that as a barrier. All right. Out of your entire day, what was your most scariest moment that day?
Scariest moment. I think the biking was scary because I never like I've rode a bike. I can ride a bike, but I not to that extreme. And as I understand it, that's like nothing compared to like full-fledged triathlons, right? So the bike ride was kind of scary, just like switching lanes, getting around people. I'm like, am I about to fall off this bike and just like scrape my whole face and knees? So I think that was the scariest part. And not to confuse scary with like really damn hard, but that last hill, my God, literally took me out. Like I did get off the bike at one point and just like had to allow my legs to recover and then get back on. So I think for me, like the lesson in that is like there's the mental fortitude is still there. You like taking a minute to like take care of yourself and recover. It's okay because you're still finishing. And sometimes it's really easy to feel like less of an athlete where you have to stop and take rest. You know, whether it's like treading water in the pool for like 2 seconds to catch your breath, or me stopping on top of a hill, or like literally three-fourths to the end of the hill, I had to get off my bike. Sometimes it could feel like you're less of an athlete, but like our body has needs. Our bodies will tell us what it needs, and it's up to us to respect and honor the needs of our body. And at that moment, I needed to step off that bike, but I definitely got back on, and I definitely finished.
Listen, that hill at the end is a hill, right? And
It is
by
a hill.
design, I think they designed it to challenge you right before you get on to the run course. And I will be remiss if I didn't say when there maybe it was a 2014 when the Philly Tri was there and they had the Olympic and the sprint versions. Um, that hill, I got off plenty of times and walked. I only did that race twice, but the first time I got off and walked, I was like, this is dumb. Like Hill Philadelphia should be called Philadelphia with all the hills that they have. Like it was crazy. And it was a testament. Like this time I didn't, because I was trained a little differently, but there were plenty of people, and it doesn't make you less of an athlete. I think some courses are just different for different body types, for different athletes, and you got to know that and you got to respect that. And I think I'm glad that you made that point is it doesn't make you less of an athlete. And a lot of people will, some people will feel that they aren't up to par if they don't finish the whole course or if they don't run the whole time or if they don't bike the whole time. And no, taking care of your body, listening to your body, that's a form of being a triathlete. It is. It's a form of it. You have to listen to your body. There's not going to be a time where you're always going to be 100% there. It's just not. It's impossible. It's
Absolutely. And I think
impossible.
the inverse is true too. Like when we think about, actually, it's not the inverse, but I think about even stepping into making the decision to compete in the triathlon, thinking like you have to look a particular way, right? Like a triathlete looks a particular way. And what I quickly learned upon arrival is that triathletes are short, they're tall, they're diverse body types. There's not one single way of what a triathlete looks like. And so getting there to your earlier question quickly demystified this idea of what a triathlete looks like, because I was quickly reminded that, triathletes body types are greatly diverse.
They are.
Yeah.
I don't even need to add anything to that. So, after doing your first triathlon, what would you say was your favorite out of all three disciplines?
I would say swimming.
Okay.
Swimming felt good. I mean, yes, I got tired. There was some fatigue, but it was the place where I was most confident, and I was able to do well in that regard.
So, what's next for B?
Well, I'll definitely be back in Philly in summer 2024.
Okay.
But to your point, there are other triathlons. Maybe I should explore them. What's next? I'm going to continue CrossFitting. I'm currently doing a back squat challenge, trying to up my 1 rep max. So you can find me in my local CrossFit box. And I will be actively working on identifying my 3 to 4 people that I'm going to not force them, and lovingly encourage them to join me in Philly in 2024. Because again, I think there's the physical aspect of that particular race, but also I think, like I said, that memory of like the pool and the image of the women supporting and laughing and hugging and encouraging one another. I think that's something, all my loved ones in my community, I want them to experience, right? So I think, working on my fitness, continue to do the things there, and actively recruiting.
I love it. I love it. Maybe we should try a challenge like who can recruit the most to
I love it.
triathlon in 2024?
Let's
Hmm.
do it.
Hmm. Think about that. Recruiting in 2024. I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. Well, we've come to the part of where we're entering our main portion and we will go into rapid fire. But what's one piece or two pieces of advice that you will leave this triathlon audience with?
One piece of advice. Lean into the things that scare you the most. The idea of doing a triathlon was incredibly scary, and I did have some anxiety waking up that morning. But at the end, after finishing, if it was incredibly rewarding. So, in life, the things that scare you the most, those are the things that you need to be leaning into. So I'd encourage everyone to do that.
I love that. Lean into what scares you the most. And you never know how leaning in will pay off for you because you leaned in and you were able to receive a race reimbursement. Now, how was it to receive this race reimbursement from Fund Her Try to realize you're going to get 150 back in the bank?
I was super excited because I'm like, what? I get money back? Because like that never happened, right? When I'm opening my mailbox, there's always people telling me I owe them money. So like it is always refreshing, and I will always welcome the moments where someone's willing to give me money. So it just felt really good, and I think it was just like the icing on top of the cake for that wrapping up that experience. I'm like, wow, I never win anything. So like I truly felt like a winner.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad because you are a winner. You're a winner because you try. We have the saying at Try Beginners, like whenever you try, you always win. And you, my friend B, have really exemplified that. And I am so grateful that you have said that. And I would encourage you, if you're listening and you are a female or identify as female, to go to fundhertry.org. Apply for the scholarship. It's like no recommendations, no requirements but to be a female or identify as female, and it'd be your first time. Duh. First
Yeah.
time female scholarship. That sounds like a win-win to me. So Fund Her Try, thank you so much for the work that you're doing to get more women to every start line. And with that, we're going to start our rapid fire. You ready, B?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I know who your favorite artist is, and we know your favorite song, so we can't go that route. But um, I'll have to edit this. Now I gotta think differently. I'm like, dang, because you are really a first timer, so you really hadn't trained a lot. Hmm,
No.
mm, Okay, okay, okay.
I mean, you can ask the question.
You said what?
I said, feel free to ask a question. I'll go with it.
I mean, I'll do my best. Okay. Because now I have to I have to think on my feet now because the questions that I have over like 30 or 40 of them really don't apply. All right. So when you are, all right, so here we go. You're a CrossFitter.
Yes.
What is your favorite workout of the day?
My favorite workout of the day is Randy. So Randy is one of those like legacy workouts. It's 75 snatches and you have like a 10-minute time cap.
Mm. And 75 snatches, 10-minute time cap. How many snatches do you typically do in the 10 minutes?
So I finished the 75 snatches around 5 minutes
Baller? Excuse us.
at at 65 pounds for women. Yeah.
Okay. Did you see me flip my braids? Okay.
I did.
Okay. All right. When you're working out or doing some cardio, do you like to listen to audiobook, podcast, music, or silence?
I generally like to listen to music, but I always forget my headphones. So when I am doing cardio, primarily running, I'm listening to myself breathe really heavy.
Well, that can make a song and that could keep you motivated to see how hard you breathe. I love you are hilarious. I love it. Um, what is one thing you wish you would have known outside of the chamois cream for chafing and that you would be soaking wet? What is one thing else you would have wished you would have known before doing your first triathlon?
I wish I would have known to bring water resistant sneakers because apparently those exist in the market, or some level of like water resistant shoes for people use them for like Spartans and Ironmans. So I wish I would have known to bring those. And yeah, I think that's the biggest one.
So you're making me write that down because I don't think I knew that there was such thing as a water resistant shoe.
Yeah, like,
Huh.
doing Ironmans and Spartans, you have to like cross rivers and climb things, all these dramatic things they make you do in those arenas. So a couple friends of mine's in the CrossFit box, they have water kind of repellent resistant. I don't know what level of resistance exists, but they're on the market.
Interesting. I know for Spartan races, but usually Ironmans are pretty straightforward in terms of like going through. But that's interesting. I'm gonna do some research because now I'm curious. Um, hmm. At the end of a race, or at the end of this race, after you got off the ground because you were laid out, did you have some prosecco, beer, water, or just soda?
I had Prosecco for sure. We went to brunch in downtown Philly and I ordered Prosecco, I ordered water, I ordered cranberry juice. I think I did all the above
Hey,
because I'm that hungry and that thirsty.
I love it. What or who inspires you?
Mm, who inspires me? It used to be Michelle Obama's arms because I was like, oh my God, I need Michelle Obama arms. Um, I mean, I think this is so cliche and cheesy, but I think life inspires me. I think about how I grew up and friends my age who are no longer with us. So that I think sadly, unfortunately, that in of itself inspires me to live abundantly. Like live knowing that the world is my oyster and that I have the opportunity to just like move around and I need to take full advantage of that.
I don't think I need to ask anything else. That's it. We are done. Whenever you
Okay.
try beginners, like you do always win. And you win out and get good guests like Bie Aweh. Welcome to the Try Beginners Luck family. Welcome to the world of triathlon. And we're just so excited to see what you can do because I can see you're passionate. I'm excited to see your caravan, the minivan that you're going to take to Philly next year with your 3 or 4 friends, or maybe you might even get 10. Who knows? Like,
Okay,
because
oh,
people
boy.
out here be wanting to try. They
Yes.
be wanting to try. And for the Black girls out there, what would be that's it. I don't want to say anything else. Well, that's it for us. I'm Mashonda
I
Shines. And
I'm like really invested in these questions. What
because
were you
I was
saying to the
about okay, because I was going to say, and to the Black girls before we sign off, or Black girls, Black women, and women who have hair that's more challenging, give them some advice so that they can try.
Yes. First things first, invest in a good wig. Um but secondly, and most importantly, like I know we'll get different feedback on this, and I'm really invested in hearing what how folks land based on what I'm gonna say is that I know hair for Black women holds a lot of capital. I won't even say social capital because great hair won't necessarily get you the job, right? But I say that to say like we have to not allow our hair to hold us captive to us being able to make decisions, right? And so I remember growing up, I used to play basketball, but I just got my perm, my hair's wrapped up. I'm like, oh, I told my coach, I ain't sweating today, right? Like, but as I get older and I know how imperative my health is, I've had to forego like not necessarily the health of my hair but the good lookingness of my hair sometimes for the sake of my health, and I'm just throw a wig over it and I'm okay with that. So I'm not that may not be your thing, but I think the deeper message here is that we're making sure that we're not allowing our hair to hold us captive from being able to partake in just like critical physical activity.
That's it. That's officially it. But I just had to ask that question because we do get we can get hung up on our hair because it's a real
Mhm.
thing. Your hair freshly laid, freshly
Yeah,
twisted out. You like,
makes me feel more power. Like I feel at my best when my hair is done, so I get it, and I'm still gonna work out.
that's it. So get your hair done, work out, and try. That's it.
Yes.
Thank you so
Exactly.
much, B. I am so grateful for you. Whenever you try beginners, like I'm gonna say it again, because the more I say it, the more it's gonna be ingrained. You always win. I'm Ashonda Shines, and we are out. Peace. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try Beginner's Luck, you always win.